Good morning, good day, good evening. Whatever time you're watching this video, hello, it's morning for me right now. I'm actually post-call and quite sleep deprived, but I opened up my YouTube analytics and I saw that I just reached 47,000 subscribers, and I wanted to express my gratitude to you guys. I'm so grateful to every one of you who has watched my videos, who has provided likes, positive comments, and who have subscribed. Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. I absolutely love this online community, and I'm really looking forward to evolving, growing, learning with you, and connecting with you. I also wanted to make this video because I mentioned that I'm post-call, slightly delirious. I got very little sleep last night, and I was woken up at around 4:30 this morning with another page. And I decided, you know what, I'm just, instead of continuing to get woken up with more texts or phone calls, after I got done what I needed to do with work, I decided I'm just gonna get up. Made myself a cup of coffee and started reading a book that I have been reading for the past week, and I'm already halfway into it. And this book is called Power versus Force, and this book was recommended to me by a dear friend of mine who had noticed that, I had been kind of struggling with some things in my personal life. In this book, she thought, might give me a new perspective. I'm a person of science. I've been trained scientifically, but my heart, where my heart is in the spirit and spirituality. And my ultimate goal in this life has really been to achieve meaning, to achieve spiritual enlightenment. And this book has helped me better understand my desires in that realm, and it explains things in a way that I've never really thought about before. So I'm not going to go into the details of the book right now because I'm not finished. I may make a video summarizing the book because I think it's so fascinating, but I did want to read an excerpt from the book because I thought it so clearly highlighted the current dynamics of what is going on in our civilization, in our world. And so I wanted to read it as kind of like food for thought. Maybe some of you might be able to use it as a morning affirmation. And I really want to hear your thoughts about it. One of the major motifs in the book is the concept of power versus force, obviously, since that's what the book is titled. So let me just explain what that is before I delve into this, because the passage refers to that. So power is a state of being that arises from within. It's associated with higher levels of consciousness, the pursuit of truth. True power is characterized by qualities such as love, compassion, wisdom, and peace. Force, on the other hand, is an external imposition of control. It relies on fear, manipulation, and coercion in order to exert its influence on others. Okay, so now that you understand a general idea of the differences between power versus force, let's start the passage. On examination, we will see that power arises from meaning. It has to do with motive, and it has to do with principle. Power is always associated with that which supports the significance of life itself. It appeals to that in human nature which we call noble, in contrast to force, which appeals to that which we call crass. Power appeals to that which uplifts, dignifies, and ennobles. Force must always be justified, whereas power requires no justification. Force is associated with the partial, power with the whole. It makes me think of left-right hemisphere lateralization, where The left brain is always thinking about details, and then the right brain is always thinking about the big picture. Okay, back to the excerpt. If we analyze the nature of force, it becomes readily apparent why it must always succumb to power. This is in accordance with one of the basic laws of physics. Because force automatically creates counterforce, its effect is limited by definition. We could say that force is a movement. It goes from here to there, or tries to, against opposition. Power, on the other hand, stands still. It is like a standing field that does not move. Force always moves against something, whereas power does not move against anything. Force is intrinsically incomplete and therefore has to constantly be fed energy. Power is total and complete in and of itself and requires nothing from outside of itself. It makes no demands, it has no needs. Because force has an insatiable appetite, it constantly consumes. Power, in contrast, energizes, gives forth, supplies, and supports. Power gives life and energy. Force takes these away. We notice that power is associated with compassion and makes us feel positively about ourselves. Force is associated with judgmentalism, tends to make us feel badly about ourselves. Force always creates counterforce. Its effect is to polarize rather than to unify. Polarization always implies conflict. Its cost, therefore, is always high. Because force incites polarization, it inevitably produces a win-lose dichotomy. And because someone always loses, enemies are always created. Constantly faced with enemies, force requires constant defense. Defensiveness is invariably costly, whether in the marketplace, politics, or international affairs. In looking for the source of power, we've noted that it is associated with meaning, and that this meaning has to do with the significance of life itself. Force is concrete, literal, and arguable. It requires proof and support. The sources of power, however, are beyond argument and are not subject to proof. The self-evident is not arguable. That health is more important than disease, that life is more important than death, that honor is preferable to dishonor, that faith and trust are preferable to doubt and cynicism, that the constructive is preferable to the destructive, are all self-evident statements, not subject to proof. Ultimately, the only thing we can say about a source of power is that it just is. Every civilization is characterized by native principles. Pride, nobility of purpose, sacrifice for quality of life, all such things are considered inspirational, giving life significance. But what actually inspires us in the physical world are things that symbolize concepts within powerful meanings for us. Such symbols realign our motives with abstract principles. A symbol can marshal great power because of the principle that already resides within our consciousness. Meaning is so important that when life loses meaning, suicide commonly ensues. When life loses meaning, we first go into depression. When life becomes less meaningful, then, we finally leave it. Force has transient goals. When those goals are reached, there remains the emptiness of meaninglessness. Power, on the other hand, motivates us endlessly. If our lives are dedicated, for instance, to enhancing the welfare of others and everyone we contact, our lives can never lose meaning. If the purpose of our life, on the other hand, is merely financial success, what happens after that has been attained? This is one of the primary causes of depression in middle-aged men and women. The disillusionment of emptiness comes from failing to align one's life with the principles from which power emanates. A good illustration of this phenomenon can be seen in the lives of great musicians, composers, and conductors of our own times. How frequently they continue productive careers into their 80s and 90s, often having children and living vigorously until a ripe old age. Their lives have been dedicated to the creation and embodiment of beauty. Beauty incorporates and expresses enormous power. We know clinically that alignment with beauty is associated with longevity and vigor. Because beauty is a function of creativity, such longevity is common in all creative occupations. Wow. And this goes on and on. So if you're interested in this topic, I recommend this book. I want to hear your thoughts about what we just read. I wish you a wonderful and blessed day. And remember that you are not alone. When you are feeling low, promise you, you are not alone. I have felt that way too. And so many of us have felt that way, especially in the times that we live in. But remember, you are not alone. There is meaning to life because within every individual, there is the potential for power.